Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out AmItheA whole. Story 1. WIBTA. If I told my dad to stop giving my aunts money. So my Aunt Mindy, 46F, and Aunt Lindy, 55F, are the sisters of my father Randy, 50M. So my dad is an architect from a company that he and his friend own, while my Aunt Lindy and Mindy has a 2 stores. My mother died when I was 13, and after my aunts are the one who takes care of us. My aunts only go to our house when my father is home. They didn't cook for us, buy our needs, and even takes care of the house. Let's go to the real issue. My aunts Mindy and Lindy likes to buy things that they can't afford, so they keep making my father pay for all of it. The TV, the air condition, and when there's events for them my father also pay for that. They keep telling us that we have debt in them when it should have been paid already if they didn't keep making my father pay all their expenses. When there's events my 2 aunts' family will always be extravagant, like there's everything they want, like cakes, dishes, drinks, and more, but when it comes to us, our events, most of the time there's only 3 dishes. Water is the only thing we can drink. We still need to pay them to get to drink sodas cause they keep telling us there's no budget. My Aunt Mindy's groceries, electric bills, and water bills are being paid by father. My Aunt Mindy always reminds my dad to pay the appliances that she bought. Even though my father treat them so well, they don't treat as well. They always shouts at us, threatened us, and sometimes they cut our allowances by half. They always tell my father that we are high maintenance and spoiled. My siblings are getting annoyed by them. So WIBTA, if I tell my dad that he shouldn't give my aunts any money and let them work for IT? Story 2. AITA for refusing to move house. My 16M parents hate living in the same place for too long. We're always moving because my parents get bored of the place we're currently staying. I was born in France, and since then we've moved to different countries, cities, and states very often. I am grateful I get to see so much of the world obviously, but I wish we could stay somewhere long enough. It's like we always move as soon as I'm actually settled into a place. It sucks. We're back in France at the moment. My aunt lives 10 minutes away from our house. My parents told me that we're going to be moving back to America, and I told them if they move I won't be coming with them because I'll be staying with my aunt. She said I'm allowed to. My parents got really annoyed and said I'm being selfish. They've been really pissed at me since. AITA? Thanks so much for all the replies, smiley face. Story 3. AITA for not being apologetic about putting my education before my nephew. I, 29F, didn't have a great childhood. There was a lot of personal problems going on in my family home that I didn't want to talk about, so it caused me to become rebellious. When you was 16 I made a mistake that could have sent me to jail for 1 or 2 years, but a cop gave me a second chance to go back to school and get my GED. When I was 20 I finally went to college and completed my degree. At this point I have a nephew who was 18 months old at the time. I was supporting myself through college, so when I wasn't at college I was working, and I only had 1 day off which I used as a study/admin day. As a result I didn't see my family a lot. After I graduated I did a master's, which was a 2-year course, and that was Monday to Friday, and I had to work weekends as I was supporting myself, so I rarely saw my family. I've now moved on to completing a PhD, which requires me to dedicate 80% of my time on this, and I'm also working weekends just so I can pay the bills and put food in my belly. I'm in my final year and I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's been an easy ride throughout my education. On Monday I was in town and bumped into my sister who was with my nephew. He's around 10 now. He didn't even recognize me as his aunt. I had some time to spare before I had to go back to college, and we took my nephew to the park. Whilst my nephew was playing with the other kids at the park, my sister said I'm an asshole because my own nephew doesn't recognize me as an aunt because I've barely been around him and I'm always focused on my education. I said to my sister that I feel bad for him, but I'm not going to be apologetic for putting my education first, as I think anyone would put their education first. As soon as I said this, she grabbed my nephew and left the park, so I walked back to college as I had to access the campus to do some things. I spoke to a fellow classmate who I'm not particularly close to, and they think I'm in the wrong here. AITA for this. Story 4. AITA for moving out because my brothers couldn't pay bills on time. I, 29M, used to live with my two younger brothers, Ron *, 28M, and Barry *, 26M, along with a mutual friend of all of us, Larry, 26M. Total of 4 people in a 3-bedroom apartment, and we've had issues before, with Ron. Both of my brothers figured it would be better to work together so they can carpool because Larry and Ron are the only ones with cars, but at the same time, my brothers just always call out. My youngest brother, Barry, is notorious for calling out, but both of my brothers do. They will go to work, and they will wait until they find one thing they don't like and then they will either stop going to work regularly or just stop going and will look for other jobs, usually through temp services. With them leaving jobs so often we fell behind on bills, and I'm on SSDI, and don't make enough to cover my portion of the bills and theirs, so it has been continually stressing me out, and has created a lot of tension between all of us because Larry and I are the only ones who regularly pay bills. This, along with our lease being up at the end of September, meant that we also had to find another apartment as well. My therapist suggested that I apply for housing because I definitely qualify and to just see if anything came of it, and then to talk with my brothers about it, because in my area 2-bedroom places are cheaper than 3-bedroom places. I ended up getting approved, and when I did the math, it was way cheaper and less of a headache to live on my own, so I opted for that. I spoke with the old leasing office and set everything up to where I would be removed from the lease and everything, knowing that the 3 people left in the apartment can afford the rent for 2 more months, but my brothers, not Larry, both turned on me and accused me of sabotaging them. They keep telling me things like you are abandoning us and you made a commitment on the lease, you should at least help us until it ends, or well you're the one who left us with $3,400 worth of rent unpaid, the remaining 2 months of rent, and more. I honestly think Barry is mad at me because he thought that we were going to find a place together and leave Ron in the dust. Barry does not like Ron, for many reasons, but we all have been walking on eggshells around one another for a while because of the money troubles, and more, and with the push from my therapist. I just jumped into it. They also refuse to pay their portions of bills from July. They keep just telling me things like well you wanted to move, so don't be mad about the $300 electric bill today. With the past due bills, I had to figure something out, so I ended up renting a car through Hertz to drive for Uber for a bit so I can afford to even eat now. So, with this, and possibly any edits I make, information, AITA. Edit 1, edited the names. Story 5. AITA for correcting my stepdaughter's dad when he called me her nanny. I've been with my wife for 8 years now. She has primary custody of her daughter, Santana, 9. Santana sees her dad, Mark, every other weekend and some holidays. As I've been one of Santana's primary caretakers for the past 7 years, since I moved in with her mom, I've taken care of her more than Mark has and we are quite close. My wife and I went on to have 2 children together, who are now 5 years and 18 months. I've been a stay-at-home dad since the 5-year-old was born. As a result, I'm the one making lunches, driving kids to activities, etc. That includes for Santana. Mark has always felt insecure about my place in Santana's life. I've always encouraged her relationship with her dad, while also been a place she can go to in order to vent about both her parents. I've never asked her to call me dad, but I've made it clear I love her the same as her siblings. And she's also said she loves me and considers me her second dad. Mark also mocks me for my SAHD role. My wife always shuts him down and I just ignore him. He has in the past jokingly called me Santana's nanny and I just roll my eyes and say whatever you think, Mark. I really don't see him much as my wife will take Santana to her dad's and pick her up. However, yesterday, my wife was sick and asked me to pick up Santana. She really couldn't get out of bed and I knew Mark wasn't going to drive out to us, he's refused in the past. So, I went over to his place to pick her up. He was throwing a barbecue and had some family there. I had never met any of them. Santana ran into my arms, excited to see me and shouting my name. A few people looked at Mark curiously. He laughed and said that's Santana's nanny. I shook my head and said I'm her stepfather, Greg. Nice to meet you all. Mark turned red and barely said goodbye to Santana. I didn't think much of it outside Mark just being Mark. However, Mark texted my wife later saying I humiliated him and given I'd likely never see those people again, I shouldn't have said anything. My wife told him he's overreacting and he then texted me, saying I had no right to correct him in his own home. He asked what was the big deal in his family thinking I'm her nanny? AITA? Story 6. AITA for telling my friend she will never be a K-pop idol. I have a friend which I grew together which, we're practically neighbors, so whenever my parents needed to go somewhere they would just send me to her house and vice versa. Since we're so close we grew up with similar tastes, K-pop is one of them. She found a group called Red Velvet in 2018 and showed it to me, and since then we became in love with K-pop, but she's a little more serious about it than I am. She learns every choreography of her favorite songs and is trying to learn Korean. The problem is, she told me she wants to become a K-pop idol and is training to become one, but we're not even Asian. I tried telling her that I might not work out, but she said she would at least try. Recently I noticed she lost a lot of weight. She started dieting and she's barely eating. I asked her if she was okay and she told me that to become an idol she needed to have a body like Jang Won-young, an idol who's 5'11" and 100 pounds. I told her that Won-young's body was extremely unrealistic and she shouldn't be starving herself just to look like her. She told me if she wanted to become a K-pop idol she would need to lose weight. I said that she would never become a K-pop idol because she's Latina. She said I was unsupportive. How she doesn't understand because I'm naturally skinny and whatever. Now she's not really talking to me. I'm really worried about her, because I've found out that she's on a ed community on Twitter where they idolize to look as skinny as idols. And a major K-pop company would never accept her, especially because she's not Asian, so she's doing all of this over nothing. But I really love her and I don't really know what to do. AITA for this? Story 7. AITA for refusing to spend time with my stepsister. Backstory: I'm 15F. My parents divorced a year ago because my father cheated. He married the affair girlfriend like instantly. I think he's a complete jerk and told the judge I wanted to live with my mom, so I do, but they still said I had to go to my father's every other weekend. I don't want to see him, so I refused to go at first, but it was stressing my mom out with court stuff. I agreed to go as long as his wife is totally hands-off and I can stay in my room and not be bothered except for one family activity of their choice. So that's where we are. Every other weekend, my dad picks me up, talks at me in the car because I won't talk to him, we go to family therapy where everyone but me talks, I stay in my room until sometime Saturday when I go out with them to do something fun and then mostly stay in my room until my mom picks me up on Sunday. I have plenty of stuff to keep me busy, so I'm fine, but everyone else not so much. A fair wife has kids, 12F9M, that would go to their dads on my weekends so I never saw them, but the schedule changed so now they're there when I am. 9M is fine, he asks to borrow a video game now and then but he's like polite about it and gives them back so sure. 12F won't leave me TF alone. Anytime I don't literally have my door locked she's barging in trying to talk to me or wanting to do something. I tried to tell her to leave me alone in a nice way, but last time I just up and told her I never want to talk to her and I'm going to ignore her from now on. She cried about it, a fair wife got mad, my father said she's having a hard time with the divorce too and I shouldn't take it out on her. I told him he could stop forcing me to visit then and problem solved. Everyone is mad. My mom says she gets it, but 12F probably is just looking for someone not her parents to talk to. I just don't see why it has to be me. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.